See, last year, I got all dressed up all fancy and such, and started saving your saves on FM21. Well, now a new game is out, so it's time to start all over, but we've got to make things better, because this whole series has helped you guys out a lot. It's hopefully been entertaining, but what are we doing if we're not improving? So I think I'm going to need to upgrade the wardrobe from what we wore at the start of last year's Save Your Saves to this year's. I gotta be honest, I expected something a little less felt. So, we've got a new crop of saves that you guys have submitted in the subscribers section of the Discord, which if you have not joined, there is a whole Discord server down there. If you subscribe on Twitch, you can get into the subscribers section of it, but you can join it regardless. It's down in the description. Anyways, we've combed through the saves to find 4, 5, 6 that are going to be particularly helpful for you. We'll see how many we're able to get through in a timely manner so that my editors don't mutiny. The first one is from Ben Swansea123, who's managing Wrexham. Make Wrexham Wales great again with Canadian help. Not sure how to get who is better than what I have. Some players are just refusing to leave. How do I trim the squad without killing the dynamics? Also, tactic rate. Vanarama National League was good, but how long till I need to pull it back a bit and not push forward as much? Let's dive right in. So our Wrexham team, which is based in Wales, and we were just promoted from the Vanarama National League with a first place finish. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this right now. If you can win the Vanarama National League, League 2 is basically the same level. So you're good. That's just not something I'd worry about. A lot of people that dominate Vanarama National League will go right into League 2 because the funnel out of the top of the National League is so small that once you get out, you're usually very equipped to compete at a high level in League 2, and stringing together multiple promotions is not completely out of the question. So if you're looking at your tactic in terms of being a basic attacking tactic, I mean, you're playing out of a positive 5 at the back system using wide center backs, I think you can keep going with that. I love this midfield composition. As long as your wing backs are providing enough width, I think you can create a lot of problems for teams. I personally have found a lot of issues playing against a narrow formation that looks like this because you just can't cover all the channels. Especially with these early crosses, they make really good runs and have the ball played into them, and we all know crossing is just really strong on FM22. But that addresses the tactics. Let's talk about your actual team management, because it sounds like that's what could make or break your season more than what we're looking at here. Now, your squad dynamics are fantastic, and when we look at your hierarchy, we're seeing what I would describe as a decently strong collection of players in upper categories. 5 highly influential players is really strong. 2 team leaders is 1 short of a possible 3. You can have 3 team leaders in a team. That is basically the highest anyone's ever seen. So if you want to get rid of one of the players that is in one of these 2 sections, that is where you are rolling the dice. I honestly don't know if I've talked about this too much in a video before, but if you decide to declare war on one of these guys because they don't want to leave, then you're going to be in for a fight. But what is a good thing is you have enough people up here that even if that person is gone, there are other people, especially if they're not in their social group, which they all happen to be in the same social group, so ignore that. Where they're not necessarily great friends with that person, then it's a little bit easier. It doesn't look like you've gone about angering anybody yet, and that makes sense considering how good everything is. If you want to get rid of somebody that doesn't want to leave, you just have to make them mad. And this goes against my nature. It goes against hopefully a lot of you guys' nature. But if you make them mad, you continually degrade them. You put them in the reserves. They are eventually going to want to leave. The only concern, particularly when you are playing in England, is that your players have fat wages. There is no country outside of random big money oligarch leagues that has a higher inflated wage floor than the English league system. Everybody's being paid way too much money, which means if you're not selling inside the English league system, you are likely going to have to eat a part of that contract. I mean, this guy, there is no way he should be making $470,000 a year. I'm not knocking him. Excellent work by the agent and him to find the right deal. You know, it's not his fault. For you, value-wise, and there's no way to avoid it when you play in England. You have to give them that amount of money because they expect it. They know you will pay it. But you have to know that if you're selling outside of England, nobody else is paying a player of this quality that amount of money. It's very rare. You combine that with what we've seen the last couple of years in Football Manager, which is a trend to the better your cohesion and atmosphere is, the less players want to leave. You're really going to have to go to war with people to get them to leave. I had to do it a couple of times in FM21 to get people off my ODFC team. A good way to start is to go to happiness and change their agreed playing time to surplus to requirements. You click that, change playing time, and you've immediately started the conversation. They come to talk to you. You say all of the wrong things, say you're going to transfer list them, and try and go from there. When you're offering players out, keep in mind that offering out unspecified might scare teams away because they're expecting you to want more money. So set a hard line of money as well to see if somebody will take it. You might need to offer, especially from England, selling team salary contribution to close the deal. But once you've angered somebody, it is in your best interest to get them off the team as fast as possible, because the longer they sit there, the more likely it is that your different players will come up to you and say, why are you being mean to this guy? As for who to get rid of, your final question, you have to make a graph in your mind. And on one point of it's a 3D graph, so follow me. On one point of the graph is how much you're paying them. On another point of the graph is how valuable they are to your team. It's actually a 2D graph. So if they're in that range and they are not valuable to your team, and they're also on a really significant wage, that's the person you need to get rid of. And whether they're valuable to your team is, look, you just coached this team to promotion. Who did you play and who did you not? I mean, actually, when all the chips were on the table, who did you play? Trust your eyes over anything else. You want to get rid of those people that are going to allow you to free up wage. And if you know that somebody that you trusted in the Vanarama National League, well, they're not quite good enough, then maybe you can actively seek a replacement. At the level that you're at, scouting, honestly, you've got a lot more scouts than I do in the top Austrian league, so good for you. It's going to be fairly rudimentary, and so you're not going to be able to just order up players at every position that you feel like is going to help you. You can go, if you have a director of football, which you don't, I would recommend hiring one. Then you can actually go to them in the game and ask for recommendations at a particular position. But most often for me in lower leagues, who I get rid of is dictated by who is available for me to sign. If I can sign a better person at that position, I'm going to get rid of the old guy. Next is my boy Not Legit with Winterthur FC. Just got promoted to the Swiss Super League, very focused on building up Switzerland's youth rating, and therefore I'm wondering how best to go about that. In addition, I'm starting to work towards being consistent in European competition, but I find as I do better in the league and help to lift up the Swiss league as time goes, young boys also gets better, and I'm having trouble beating them on a regular basis. Lastly, how do I get around teams bidding way too low for my players? For example, Dumont, easily worth 6+ mil based on ability and potential, but teams want 850,000 for him. Thank you in advance. My first time doing a Build a Nation save, so any advice would be great in general. This is a very popular save this year because, of course, youth ratings are dynamic. They used to not be, but the better you do in a country like Switzerland, slowly but surely the ability of the young players coming in Switzerland is going to get better. And we're in 2026. You've taken the top of the league. You're 7 points clear of young boys. That young boys thing, because you're in front of them, that's not a problem. Don't even worry about that. We're focused on the process. The fact that they're good is just helping you improve your nation overall. So freaking forget about that. Doesn't matter. You want them to be as good as possible. You wish they were Man City, and then you had to try and beat them to get yourself on the top pedestal. You want them to be good, because that's really how this works. You are trying to develop a really good club in Switzerland. And what you want are the other clubs in Switzerland to take advantage of the extra European opportunities that you will be providing by making deep runs in Europe. That's how the national rating goes up, because all of a sudden Switzerland is no longer hanging out in the 10-15 league range. It's now up to 7, 6, maybe even 5. You get ahead of France and become a top 5 league. Well, now all of a sudden your youth rating is really cranking up. And with that, here's my main recommendation for Build a Nation. It is hard to resist the urge to go full Bayern. I mean, like laser beam eyes, Bayern. Do not buy players that are helping your other clubs. You should track them, and if they're about to be purchased and leave the league, then you can make a move. But if there are players that are helping the other clubs in your league, don't buy them. There'll be plenty of Swiss players that come up through Austrian, German, and French academies, maybe even Italian academies, that you can have a flag set for, so you can bring in those great Swiss players that come through those academies and make your team better that way. And of course, that doesn't necessarily even matter. You just need your club to be as good as possible. You don't need Swiss dudes playing in the team. That's a bonus. It's not necessary. What is necessary is you make the best team possible and give every Swiss guy a chance that has a chance. Don't make your team worse to get the Swiss guys. That's the crux of a Build a Nation. Obviously, you're managing the national team too. The better the national team does, the better for you. If you can turn a couple of expats into Swiss players, that can help you out in the short term, but league success is going to lead to national team success. Usually not vice versa, unless you come up with a good tactic. And most importantly, get lucky. For your values, I've made really detailed videos about how to sell players for more money. The bigger and better your club does and the bigger and better your league gets, the more money you're going to be able to get for a player. If you know what a player is worth, then hold out for it. David Dumont, in the right situation, is worth 4, 5, 6 million, but this guy is not an unadulterated stud muffin. I don't think it's completely unreasonable they're offering 850,000. That just means they don't think his potential is completely reachable, which is fair because he's 19 and he's a very long way away from it. So I don't think that's a terrible sign of things to come. Better team, better league, better payouts for players. If you don't have to sell them, then just don't. Next. This one's from Dr. Snuggles. Actually, also with Wrexham. First time we've ever done that. Can't win the Champions League and I'm struggling to find youngsters from abroad. Happy to have made it to the Premier League with all your tips. Loans. I mean, seriously, congratulations. You said you're struggling to sign youngsters from abroad. The main issue that is going to deny you signing youngsters from abroad is usually work permits. It looks like you've got your scouts distributed pretty well. They're distributed to different regions. You've got a ridiculous number of scouts. Your scouts are incredibly talented. There are probably 1 or 2 too many scouts that do not have an assignment currently assigned to them. But your scouting network is set up the way that it's supposed to be. I do have one concern. Superb might be a little high. I might tick it down to very good. You're at an incredibly high level, and the higher level you get, the less and less people are going to have that scouted potential ability there. And if you're hunting for the next Messi, most places aren't going to have it. But to be perfectly honest, I'm looking at your team right now and you've got a bucket full of talent. So any issue that you've got is come down to patience. These guys will come good. Enough of them will come good. You will grow a good core. Success, unless you happen to have your house built on a huge pile of oil, does not come overnight. And it even took Man City a while to get that core in place and then have them grow together. You're doing the right thing. Keep the faith. Congrats on getting here. Next is Imd Hunt with IK Start in Norway, building up the Norwegian League national team. Hey! We're just doing that. Attempting to be competitive, win in the Champions Cup. Trying to win with only Scandinavian players. None of the top tier players are willing to come to my club, even though I've won the league multiple times and have progressed past the group stage and Champions League twice. I can't get my club's reputation to increase. So we've done some kind of early save discussion about team building strategy, and now we're on our second save where we're at a very high level, but how do I process this information and what am I going to do? Football Manager makes it harder every year to sign really good, high reputation players at smaller clubs. So because you are trying to do this Scandinavian only, which is a sick way to make it extra difficult to try and accomplish all of these things, you are off and running. You're doing the absolute darndest you can. You just got to keep winning. And it looks like you've signed enough of these guys. So you know what? Over the last couple of years in Football Manager, I have noticed that it is hard to even do what I did in FM20, which is win the Champions League out of Belarus in 9 years, because those guys of that quality will be more determined to leave and less likely to sign for a club that's off the beaten path. This just means you got to trust the process a little more. You've got to build up your reputation a little more to get to that point. But I hear what you're saying. You said your reputation is not improving. It's stuck at 3 stars and you're just having an absolute bear of a time. Congrats on 23 goals in 4 matches, by the way. That's pretty sick. But look, the main advice on this is win. The better you do in Europe, the better things are going to be. But if you can improve the reputation of your league, that'll help. So everything we just talked about, the nations building stuff before, is great. What you also can do is loan players to the other teams in your league. Make sure that when you're loaning out those players that don't quite make the cut for your team, you send them to domestic teams. So those teams then do better, and that can elevate your reputation. The last answer is find that old Swedish captain who's 32, 33 years old and's got reputation through the roof and sign him. Bringing in super high reputation players is a good way to improve your reputation. Seriously. It improves the amount of money you make from marketing stuff too. You don't need to sign a lot of them, just 1 or 2, maybe 1 a season, 1 old high reputation Scandinavian. And that's basically all you can do. Let me rephrase that. That's all that I know that you can do. If you have any other subtle ideas about how to increase your reputation, maybe the effectiveness of preseason tours in places like China and the United States, then please put them in the comments. Next. To really enunciate the ending. Next, we have the Nardi Party managing Lamel SK in Belgium. First off, congratulations, you found yourself at the top of the league table. Here's your questions: figuring out which players to promote for my youth team and how to make the jump from Conference League into Champions League group stage. First, let me just see where you're getting dropped. European Champions Cup group stage. So I would say winning the league would get you into the Champions League group stage. If you mean getting into the knockout stage, well, then you just have to be able to hang with the best teams in the world. And that is getting to the group stage is one thing. Getting out of the group stage is probably one of the biggest steps you have to take in the whole game. Just keep that in mind. Looking at your squad, you've obviously gone about promoting a good number of youth players, but if you're competing to get out of a Champions League group stage, somebody like this is simply not ready to play at that level. And given the fact that they're in Enganche, they're 18, and that potential is still pretty far away, it is going to take a lot of improvement in a short time to get to that level. Maybe a loan would be in order if this player doesn't find themselves in your regular rotation. Because I feel like you're asking the wrong question. Players should be promoted from the youth team when they are able to contribute to the rotation. Or if you notice massive improvement, they are touted as having particularly absurd potential, that's somebody that you want to bring into the first team so they can develop alongside those coaches and those players. Looking at your U21s, your U18s, you clearly have collected a lot of talent, 16 through 18 or 19. What you need to do is just keep doing that. My general rule of thumb is that if I really trust who's appraising the players, 2.5 stars is when you want that player to make it into the first team. Some 2-star players will be good enough to go up to that first team. How did I just accidentally click on the exact same player? But somebody like this guy, look, if you're competing in the Champions League group stage, this homie is lost. He's also 19 years of age. He needs some loans. He needs some playing time. Do not let people that once they hit 19 years of age and still have a lot of improvement left to go rot in your youth teams. Loan them out and let them play at a high level, because if they're already 19 and they're not at a level where they're able to help your first team, it is unlikely that if they haven't developed enough yet, you still trust their potential, that they're going to be able to get there while still not playing. Good recommendation for loaning these players out. Try and keep them in Belgium, because not only does that help your league in European situations, as we've talked about earlier, it also makes sure that they don't have to go through too much adapting, and so they can just begin developing while they're on loan. Maybe an affiliate club in the Belgian second division just to get you started with that feel, because that guy would be a pretty darn good player in the Belgian second division. But you're asking the wrong question. Most of these guys aren't ready to be promoted. They're ready to either receive more playing time or be turned into cash. Somebody like this 16-year-old, though, this is somebody we're seeing improvement. We see a great holy trinity right here, and good technique, good base athleticism. Still 16 years old with a lot of time to close that gap. Keep this person on your team. Give them a first team opportunity in a cup. That's the difference. Next, then we have Huban managing Katowice. I accidentally won the Extra Klasa. I've never had to say it out loud. This Polish top flight. I accidentally won the Extra Klasa in my first season after promotion, and I shouldn't even have gotten promoted in the first place, but here we are. I love how people say this to me all the time. I accidentally did this, now I don't know what to do. Celebrate that. You just won a trophy. I'm entering Europe and starting to have a little problem with homegrown players. Also, the board just won't let me scout even whole of Europe. These are my main concerns, but I would love a suggestion. What should I do from now on in the long term, and which aspect could I do to better my team in the short term? So since you just won the league, you have to immediately be playing the European game. Obviously, promotion into league title in a league that does have some powers like Legia, and Cracovia, and Lech Poznan, like, you shouldn't have been able to breeze past those teams, but you did. So you won. Short term, need to try and replicate that success. If you have anybody aging out of your team, or if you see any obvious signings with what I'm assuming is still a bit of a limited budget, it is just $2.5 million, then you should go and make that move. You've got over $1 million, about $1 million in payroll on per annum, so the moves are there. But your money, all of your money in the future of your club, rests in Europe. Your use of loans is right. Continue to do that until you feel like your club is financially stable enough to actually sign the players. This will usually happen once you make a Champions League group stage, so loan until then. Scour the top Polish national team for guys that are on loan, and if that doesn't work, try and get a senior affiliate. If that doesn't work, then scour top clubs near you, particularly in Germany, maybe a little in Austria, Switzerland, and Russia, to find guys that are listed for loan at those top clubs and see if you can bring them in. Do this on deadline day. I'm still fleshing this out for a full video, but on deadline day, it seems like you can get a lot of free loans if you just go to big clubs and look for loan listed players, because they just want to get them out of the club, off the training ground, and playing somewhere. At the very least, it helps provide you squad depth while also allowing you to spend more money on your actual playing players. You just have to be aware of the loan rules, which in your case are 7 over the age of 22. What's interesting to me is looking at your scouting, you're actually able to scout individual nations that are outside of the regions that you're allowed to scout. So like I checked with Russia, so Russia's in what's considered technically like northeastern Europe, but it's here, but the region's not here. Your scouting range should be the world. If you win the Polish league, there is no reason your scouting range shouldn't be the world. I'm assuming you asked and it just didn't work yet. There could be some small thing with your board. Like if you make a European group stage and your board doesn't automatically expand your scouting range to the world, you might be sitting on a glitch. I don't think I've ever seen a team win a top 20 league in Europe and not be at that level, but because you ascended so quickly, it's possible. It's just taking a little more time. Continue to just not get relegated for a year and it should be okay. Keep asking as it pops up. It's in networking. Right now you can decrease it. I'm assuming the option to ask to increase it is not there because you've already asked and been denied. That's okay. Your club situations change very suddenly. Your board will adjust over time. If it doesn't, to the forums. And I wish you great success. I wish all of you great success on that stuff. If you made it to the end of this video, please consider subscribing. But I can't make that pitch too long because I am starting to sweat in this felt. It's just really wildly uncomfortable and I'm gonna need to take this off, take 3 showers and eat a peanut butter sandwich. You have a wonderful day. I'll see you on stream. Your saves forever be saved.